All right, we are live.
We got a new look tonight. This is
We got a new look, man. Things are changing. JB got the Starlink. Shout out to Elon Musk for
yeah.
sending that stuff down from the heavens to those people that live
Us
out
country
there.
folk, we got to get the stuff here now. So.
Yeah, and you were telling me how you had to argue with the internet lady about their internet that was horrible and why you were getting rid of their horrible internet.
So we cut the cable, cut the dish today, right? Like, so no more satellite TV, and then I canceled my AT&T service. Well, AT&T wasn't too bad. That was fairly cut and dry. But the dish, they couldn't understand, like, we're going away from TV. Like, we're just gonna. They don't need to know all my business. I guess is what I'm saying. Like, they don't need to know that we're going to start streaming stuff. And getting away from the and so I got an email today. It was in good time. I got an email today that my bill went up to $180 a month for TV, which is insane.
It's insane
for something that I watch like that much of.
Yeah,
everything you could watch online.
I just got an antenna, we've talked about that before, and right. I miss out on some stuff, but every once in a while I feel like I might want to go watch, like, Thursday Night Football, and it's not on there, but that's no big deal. Typically,
if you want to, you could watch it.
I don't really want to that bad, so I don't really mess with it.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have internet, so you could at least go watch it, but at the end of the day, like, what's the
I watch The Voice usually because it gets me in my feels. It's like there's plenty of talented people out there they got these real dramatic stories, and that's kind of like my thing. That
absolutely.
I watch it sometimes. I'm not like beholden to anything really.
I think the biggest challenge that we'll face is like when you're sitting around, you just don't have anything to watch, and you just start hitting the clicker.
Oh yeah,
and going through everything. That will be the
like YouTube Shorts or the Facebook Shorts or something. I try to stay away from those because you can really lose like 45 minutes of your life, like with the snap of a finger.
It's kind of like LiveScope.
Yeah, it you know what? You're right. It kind of is. That's
you could lose an hour of fishing time in no time with LiveScope.
Yep. Yeah. So. We got a good stream tonight. Unfortunately, Peyton was going to be on here, and he's the guy that finished 4th in the Big Bass Bash. He had a bass of 5.97 pounds. He just texted me a while ago, and he said he's dog sick. He's throwing up. He can't keep anything down, so he had to cancel. But he did give me his report on where he caught the fish and kind of a little bit about how his day went. So we'll read that here in a second. 2 things before we pull in Austin here. One, I saw that an historic company, at one time there were 2 trolling motors, well, there were probably 3, I guess Johnson had trolling motor, but the 2 big ones were Minn Kota and Motor Guide. And I just saw where Motor Guide is, after 80 years, they're hanging it up. They're no longer going to cease to exist. And that's a change, there's a lot of changes going around in the industry. Things are getting tight, man. People, the last couple of years, basically COVID was the Wild West. It was a free for all. Every company that sold anything outdoors, their sales just went through the roof. There was this huge plateau and everything was really good. But then as things kind of started curving and COVID started becoming normalized, things slowed back down and they started falling. And then there's been like this steady decline across the board, especially the industry. And you're seeing some of these companies fall by the wayside, and it's unfortunate. Did you saw that too, Jonathan?
Yeah, I saw that. What was that? That was announced today.
I just saw it today. Yeah.
I was thumbing through the socials and I saw that. I think that was first thing this morning. I saw that. And I was a little taken back by it. It brought back some memories. So I still have a Motor Guide trolling motor that's tucked away in the garage, and I was like, well, heck, that's a relic now. But I remember, so what the memory that it brought back for me was we were at the Classic, and I believe it was in Birmingham, And that was the first year that the Ultrex like came onto the scene. And we watched the full weigh in, 51, 52 boats come through, and there was one boat that did not have an Ultrex on it.
Yeah.
So just shows you the power of that Minn Kota has over Motor Guide at this point, or at that point. But now it's even, they've been trying to keep up for a handful of years, and I think the market share wasn't there. So
yeah, I got to fish when I fished with Darius. I'm pretty sure he has a Motor Guide. And it was like I believe the X5. So it had,
he just said that. He says, I have the new Motor Guide. And
okay. And it was good. It's a good motor, man. It seemed to do what it needed to do, but it's just hard to keep up. So one more thing real quick, and then we'll bring, actually I want to bring in Austin here in just a second and see what his opinion is on this. We had Dion Hibden on right before the Big Bash, and we all made a guess. We all made a prediction on what we thought.
Well, hold on. We made a bet. We didn't make a guess. We made a bet.
We did. You're exactly right. We made a bet. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. We made a bet with Dion about what the biggest bass in the tournament was going to be. And I actually talked to Dion the other night for quite a while because he called me and he wanted to remind me that he had won the bet, or he thought he had won the bet. And at that time, I didn't have this piece of paper with me. It was over at my father-in-law's house. So,
well, he was jabbing too because the tournament hadn't even started yet, right?
No, this was right after it.
Okay.
I was at Pickwick while the Big Bass Bash was going on.
That's right.
And when I got back Saturday nights, I think it was Sunday night, Dion called me. So the Sunday of the bash, I think it was. Anyway, he called to remind me that he thought he had won, and I couldn't remember exactly what the weight's for, but I felt like maybe he was a little bit high, over, like he had bid a little bit too high on there. He guessed a little bit too high. So I wrote all this stuff down. I've got the weights, and I'm gonna. I actually took a screenshot of it just while ago and sent it to Dion, but of course he hasn't texted me back. But the winning weight was 7.05. That was the Big Bass. I guess 6.98, and JB had 7.13, and Dion had 7.32. So my question for you out there, everybody out there, and for Austin, we'll bring him in, is it the closest without going over, or is it the closest?
Well, either way, you won
all around. Well, I know. I'm just saying. What do you think, Austin? When you make a bet with somebody, is it the closest without going over, or is it just the closest person that gets the closest, regardless of what side it's on?
Yeah. If you don't say closest without going over, then it's just closest. Period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I can
they're
take that.
live with the chat saying it's Price is Right rules.
It's Price is Right rules, which is what, closest without going over, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's always what I was
on it.
You
guys were all over
so, but regardless, it was 7.05. I had 6.98. JB had 6.13. So
you were
I was the closest
off. I was 0.8 off, and Dion wasn't even like in the ballpark. I mean,
no, he was way out there. He was thinking too big, and that's because Lawson had caught a couple 7-pounders that week, and he was thinking somebody's going to bust like a high to mid-7. So I guess I'll take that. I guess I'll take that as a win.
So what was that? Was that a trip out to?
That's a trip in the boat with Dion on Lake of the Ozarks sometime, and I will have I'll have my camera with me, so I'll have the one-man camera.
You need your cameraman too, right?
Yeah, I think I do, man. I think I do.
Yeah.
Yep. I think I do. We didn't get the baits right, I don't think, but
what was the winning bait?
Okay, so I know Austin's like, what's going on here? I thought I was coming on here to talk about my story, but we'll definitely.
I'm intrigued.
We get to rambling sometimes, man. I had a chat, like a glide bait was my guess. Dion, of course, had a 3/4 ounce Hibden's hammer jig.
Yep.
Green pumpkin with I think he said a bow hog. And then you had you had a green pumpkin jig.
Yep,
with a big salty crawl on the back. Yeah. And your second place was a drop shot, and your third place was a one knocker spook.
Yep.
And my second place was a 3/8 ounce shaky head. And then my third place was a 1/2 ounce jig with a brush hog. And then Dion had, let's see, he had a shaky head for second place, and then a 1/2 ounce jig for third place.
Yep.
So I think, what'd you hear that the big bass was caught on, Austin? Was it a tube? Is that what you heard?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
A tube. I think it was a green. That's what he said. Yeah. That's what he said at the ceremony.
Yeah. Green pumpkin tube. And I got it written down. It was like Ivy Bend area. So he was up the river, I guess.
Yeah. He said he was way up there, like 60.
Okay. That's a good idea, really. Get away from the crowd a little bit, because you get down there around anywhere around the Glaze is going to be jam packed with people. So I was going to ask you, like, just to start out, what's your experience on Lake of the Ozarks? Is it a place that you fish all the time, or is it just like the Big Bass Bash is one of those times when you get down there and that's pretty much it?
So my parents have a lake house there, and I went out there growing up during the summer. I'm originally from SoCal, and so we'd go out to Lake of the Ozarks for lake trips during the summer. And we've been doing that. I'm like 35 now. We've been doing that like half my life. So I used to get out there a bunch more. Now it's more like a couple times a year, but I have fished there a good amount.
Yeah. What part of SoCal are you from?
I'm from Thousand Oaks, just north of LA.
Yeah, cool. My sister lives in Pasadena.
Okay, cool. I lived there for a bit too.
Yeah, I got a lot of family. I've lived in Mission Viejo for a little bit. I used to go out and visit my dad every summer. Los Alamitos and Long Beach and a bunch of those little. My dad moved around to a lot of different places, but so I'm familiar with some of that out there.
Yeah, I didn't fish when I lived out there. I live in Columbus, Ohio now, but there's some big bass out there. I wish I would have fished more when I lived out there.
Yeah, the cost of living's pretty crazy out there. That's what always amazes me when I go out there.
Yeah.
Just everything costs a lot of money, but sunshine costs money. That's the way it is.
I couldn't imagine. We talk about, like, granted you get Tackle Warehouse that's out there, but like I couldn't imagine tackle out there, how high it is. If it's like the local shops and stuff, like those are, because I know if I'm out there, I am like in the big swim bait scene. I can promise you that. And I would be probably broke ×3 just for living in Southern California.
Everything's more expensive out there for sure. Yeah.
So you had experience on Lake of the Ozarks, and then, like, when did you get down to the lake? Did you just jump right in the tournament, or did you have a chance
like
to, like,
super close either?
No, that's a haul.
No, yeah, it's like a 9-hour drive.
Yeah.
I did drive down just because it was easy to take my poles, but I drove down a few days early. I thought it was Friday, Saturday for some reason, and so I came down on Wednesday. I fished with my dad, and we fished a little bit on Thursday, just looking for spots. But I got there a couple days early.
So what's your strategy in practice? Are you sticking a couple of them just to see what's available, or what's your strategy on that?
We were more looking for spots, more looking at the graph and trying to cover water. We were throwing a little bit. We didn't catch anything, but we were out very briefly. I can't say that it was like a practice. I was kind of trying to get my dad to practice a little more, but I was more taking it serious, and he was just out there having fun. So it was a fine balance not to push too much.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those tournaments where it's a lot different than like a 5-fish tournament. If you hook a couple decent fish in a 5-fish tournament, you can stop, definitely bend the hooks down and make adjustments. But a big bass tournament, you're fishing for one fish, and you hook a 5 or 6 pounder. I heard of a guy that hooked like a 7-something pounder or something.
Was that last year that guy caught the winning fish twice?
Yes, that's a wild story too. But this fall tournament, they were talking. I can't remember who I was talking to, but a friend of theirs or somebody they knew or heard through the grapevine had hooked like a 7-something pounder the day before, just out, the day before the Big Bass Bash.
Just set the hook on the wrong one.
Yeah, so you take that risk if you're out there actually hooking fish, because that's $100,000 fish.
Yeah, I would have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have mixed. I'd have like strong feelings one way.
I mean,
well,
at the same
I guess
time, you know where they are. You know where big fish are. You caught a big fish. Yeah, it would be tough.
I just wonder how many 6 and 7 pounders are living in that same area. Like I'm in like full deer hunt mode right now. So, if you have a dominant male, like typically you're not going to, or in this case, probably a big dominant female, you're not going to have a ton of them in the area because there's probably not enough food that supports it. So I'm kind of in the camp of, I'm going to bend my hooks down. I may like pull one up to the surface real slow, but I'm probably not going to jack them. Now I'm going to make them pay in the tournament. I'm going to swing on everything as hard as I possibly can. And Gabe knows that when I swing, I bring the hammer. We were talking about Dion a while ago, so.
Yeah, you don't mess around. So you said you're out there looking around. What are you looking for when you're out there looking around? Like the day before the tournament?
We were just trying to get some spots mentally in our head. So we weren't out there in the morning scratching our heads going, where should we go? Or talking about it too much. But we had a few things we wanted to target, like walls near deep water, creek mouths. We didn't want to run too far. We're down in like the 6-mile marker. So stuff around us. But we went down to the dam. We actually found some good new spots actually when we were out looking at the graph. We found a cool hump underwater that we fished later. So yeah, we had a few kinds of targets we wanted to have.
Okay. And then, so did you have, morning of the tournament, did you have a starting spot in mind?
No, we had probably 3 or 4 spots that we had visited that we wanted to go back to. We talked about them. My parents' house is on the water, and we ended up starting right near our house. We just started near us, tried to catch the topwater bite in the morning in our cove, which is a big cove. So we just ran all the docks going out to the main lake. Didn't catch anything, and then later on moved to those spots that we had scoped out.
Okay. So was the topwater bite going on at all? Because I've heard the topwater bite really hasn't been happening down there lately.
It was funny. Both days, my dad, he was fishing smaller topwater baits and caught one like first or second cast both days. Or the first day was a little bit later, but so he caught like one. They were both super small right off the bat, and then no, it died. Like it was pretty tough out there.
Yeah, normally I think this cold front that's pushing through is going to change a lot of things. Get those fish kind of energized because normally this is that time when you start getting a little bit of a topwater bite, and it hasn't gotten really good. Even on Kentucky Lake, it's not really gotten to where it needs to be. But I bet most of the water temps are still in like the mid 70s, and I personally believe that it's the length of the day, but it's also you need 60-degree water temperatures to really get that topwater bite popping off.
Yeah, it seems like even though that we're dead middle of October, it seems like we're still behind, right? The water temperatures should be a lot lower than they are at this point. I feel like we haven't got to the height of fall fishing whatsoever yet. So
yeah. So how was your day one? Talk us through a little bit. You started out close to your house, started out with some topwaters and made some adjustments. How did the morning develop and then on through the midday?
Yeah, after that first little fish my dad caught, it was really rough out there. Like we basically weren't getting bites. I was fishing big baits So I had kind of expected that going in. I was looking for that one bite. But man, I felt like we were fishing really well, and like we hit all the spots we wanted to do, and had everything worked out from our quick practice run. And for the first time, I was just stoked that I felt like we were fishing well, making good casts, like literally getting no bites. The first day, the whole rest of the day, we didn't get anything, honestly. And we're falling apart by 3 p.m. when we had to quit. We were just tired out there, getting our baits stuck everywhere, breaking everything off. Yeah, it was kind of messy at the end of the first day.
Huh. So that's interesting. I mean, obviously you had some redemption. You didn't throw in the towel and drive all the way back to Ohio. You stuck it out and kind of regathered your thoughts. What'd you, so after day one, you're sitting around the house. What were you talking about? What were you like stewing over? How did you adjust your game plan, or did you go out and just do the same thing the next day?
Yeah, my message was like what I was just saying. I was saying we were doing great, even though we didn't catch anything. We were making good casts, and my dad was occasionally throwing bigger baits. So we said that before, like we're just looking for that one bite, but it is hard to kind of keep up your morale. And so I told my dad, I think we should do the same exact thing. Essentially, it was kind of the next day he was starting out where he wanted to fish, and he totally took over. Like he didn't hit any of my spots the second day. I think he just wanted to catch some fish and was over targeting the real big fish. And so we kind of went more basic back to docks and stuff the next day. But I was a little frustrated that we didn't just keep up on the same spot, because I felt like we were doing well. But yeah, we just kind of switched it up the next day.
It's hard to do that. It's hard to continue to keep your mindset positive and not spin out when you're not getting any bites. I mean, that's one of the toughest things as a tournament fisherman or a fisher person in general, is just to go out and keep casting over and over and not getting any feedback. Sometimes you almost need to just catch a small fish every once in a while to get you like remotivated.
Yeah.
I mean, and keep you in the game, right? Like, how often do we get just so into the rhythm, right? Where you're just cast. You're not focused on what you're doing. You're just going through the motions. And then you're 3 hours into the day, and all of a sudden, like, you get winning bite, you get a bite. And I mean, I know I'm guilty of it. I've sat there and was like, yep, that was a fish. And you just, you kind of go blank for a second. So it's, that's definitely real. That happens a lot. It happens a lot in tournaments when you're 3-4 days in and you're not making good decisions at that point.
Stephanie's kind of got a question / comment. And she says, where were you fishing at, Austin? Like open water, coves, creeks?
Yeah, the main thing we were looking for on the first day was those walls. And I was trying to stay in probably too deep of water, honestly. I was trying to stay out on the main lake. And we were fishing walls down by the dam, a wall right at the entrance of like Graviois Arm. And then we hit those docks early in the morning for topwater. I think we tried a couple points as well that first day. And then the second day is when we were targeting creek mouths and docks back in Graviois Arm.
So what kind of baits were you throwing like day one and day two besides the topwater? You said you're getting hung up a lot, so it sounds like you're dragging some stuff on the bottom maybe.
Yeah, I was fishing like smaller size Huddlestons, smaller or like rubber soft baits, swim baits. What else was I throwing the first day? Some like multi-joint swim baits where you just crank them straight at you. And then, yeah, just some subsurface stuff like subsurface swim baits. I was just sticking to big baits the whole weekend. That was my motto.
Sounds like you've spent some time in California.
Yeah, I got into fishing out. out here in the Midwest, but I think it was a bunch of California guys I saw like you guys on YouTube that turned me onto the bigger swim baits.
Yeah.
Keeping those California roots.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently started throwing them. I kind of felt like I worked my way up. I've been fishing for about 5 years. So I finally felt like I was experienced enough with the conventional stuff to step up earlier this year. So it's still kind of new to me, but I've had fun so far. I've caught a good amount of fish.
The big swim bait stuff can be super, super addicting. So
yeah.
And it's, when you have tackle habits, it's not cheap either. So
for sure.
Yeah, I fished with go ahead, Austin.
Oh, I was just going to say how you were saying they're expensive. Of course, before the tournament, I splurged on Tackle Warehouse, but it'll come back to haunt me because I caught the fish that I won on one of those baits that I splurged on. So it's just going to encourage more bad behavior.
That's always it doesn't matter what your drug is, and ours is fishing, and the bait works orders and all the tackle orders, they add up very, very quickly. But
those are baits you actually have to save up for. Most of the time it's like if you want to just go buy a pack of like Yamamoto Senkos, you just go buy it. But if you're wanting to buy like a clutch swim bait or something that's $179, it's a little harder to justify. You don't just like order that. I mean, you kind of got to think about it a little bit, and then it's not like you're putting like $4 $200, or I don't, but like $4 $200 glide baits in your cart. But you can put like 4 packs of speed crawls in your cart. That's not that big a deal,
right?
But you got to think about it a little bit more. Stephanie says, how many were in the tournament this year? I don't know the exact number, but typically there's close to 3,000 people that fish that. I didn't ask Big Al the exact number. Did you hear an exact number, Austin?
No, I don't know.
Okay, but it's usually around 3,000, which is insane. That's a lot of people on a lake. I mean, that's a really big lake. But were you finding that as you moved around to fish spots, most things were covered up, or did you find some areas that you had to yourselves?
The first day, I felt like it was more open. We were a little surprised that we weren't seeing more people out there, but I think by the end of the first day, they were out there. And then, Sunday was busy. They were everywhere. I think they were out there the whole time. We were just missing them that first day. But yeah, it's insanely busy.
Bryce just texted me, said 3,200 entries.
3,200.
3,200 entries. That's a lot of folks.
Insane.
Yeah.
So, and you caught your fish Sunday.
Yeah, like an hour before it stopped. I caught it at like 2 p.m. on Sunday.
Oh wow!
So take us through that. You'd been throwing the glide baits, and then you just kept them in your hand, and so you're thinking. I mean, towards the end of the day, you're like, well, it was fun. We tried. We cast, we fished hard. It's just not supposed to happen. And then what? Then what happened?
Yeah, I was losing it by the end of the second day. We had basically quit. We took a long lunch. I had 2 beers at lunch. We weren't in a rush to get back out there. I do wonder how we didn't quit. My dad was kind of over it, I could tell, and I don't blame him. He doesn't fish that much, and that's a lot of fishing for anybody. And so yeah, I guess we just stuck with it. I think we got into a flow. And we ended up fishing probably longer than we planned. We had probably planned to cut out a little bit earlier. I think my dad had wanted to. But yeah, that's how it happened. It came at the last moment, right before we called it a day.
Okay, well, walk us through it a little bit.
Was it on a dock or?
Yeah, where were you throwing, and then what kind of cover did you catch it around?
Take it through that last
cast. Yeah, so I think I didn't pick up the glide bait until the end. I think I had fished it briefly earlier on the second day, but I caught it on a glide bait, a 7-inch Phil Hunt glide bait, and I picked that up at the end. I loved how it was swimming, darting side to side. I caught it up by where Graviois Arm meets the main lake, right at a creek mouth. We had just fished a really deep creek mouth cove and fished the hell out of it. We were both sure that we were going to catch something there and just got nothing again. We still hadn't really caught anything the whole day, the second day. My dad caught a small fish at the beginning of the day, but that was it. So second day was rough too. And the cove that I caught it in was, it wasn't a very deep creek mouth, but there was a creek mouth at the back of this cove. It was probably only 50 yards deep. So you could almost hardly call it a cove. It was just like a little inlet. And the terrain on the bank was pretty steep, had some rocks falling into the water. But I did notice when I looked down into the water, we were probably in 6 feet of water, about 5 yards off the shore. And there was just a sandy ledge that came into the water offshore that dropped into about 6 feet where we were. So that's what the situation looked like. And believe it or not, my dad had just said, I'm ready to go. And I said, let's fish to the end of this mouth right here, and then we'll go. And a couple casts later after that, I had a follower come up, and right as I pulled the bait out of the water, the fish came up and turned and touched it with its nose, but didn't get a hook. And I could see it. I'm 95% sure it was the fish that I ended up catching, but it was huge. It looked really big. So after 2 days of not getting a single bite, at the last minute, a fish comes up and misses my lure as I'm pulling it out of the water, the big bait, and I see the whole thing. So I freak out. And my dad's kind of like, he's hearing me, but he's also kind of like, all right, you're like losing it. Like, sure, I'm sure it was a big fish, but, like, because he didn't see or hear anything. So maybe part of him didn't believe me at all. So I'm standing up there. I was in the front, and I told him, I'm like, I'm shaking. I just can't believe it. And he's like, yeah, sure. And we both cast back to it and nothing. And my heart's breaking more. And so I make a big bomb cast forward and take my time with it, reeling it in. And I basically gave up on that fish. And then I think it was the next cast, I did a long cast back to it because we were further away from it now. And yeah, I didn't feel it bite, but I thought I was pulling a snag. But it started coming towards me. I didn't feel any shakes or anything. It just felt like a log at the end of it. And then saw it coming up, and it looked really long in the water. I don't think I realized how big it was until I was like on the deck in the net. So I was like freaking out, but it was a really exciting catch.
What swim bait was that?
It's a Phil Hunt glide bait. They have them on Tackle Warehouse. I think they call it a pH glide.
Yeah.
He's a bait maker from Indiana.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a big fan now. I connected with him.
So.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Those are fairly cheap too, right?
They were I mean, for me it was expensive. It was like $150 bait.
I was being very very sarcastic.
But like you said,
yeah.
Well worth it though. Well worth it.
Yeah.
So did you had a net or not?
Yeah, my dad netted it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, he netted it for me. After not getting a single bite, I just totally freaked out. I was like, yeah, I was just trying to get that thing in the live well, keep it alive.
At what time was it exactly? Because you waited in at the 1 to 3 slot.
Yeah, I think I caught it
on Sunday.
I would guess like 150. I think I was weighing in by like 210, so I think it was like 150, just right at the last moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
So was it like a high five relief moment at that point? Like, holy cow, we just did it.
Yeah, it's all embarrassing for me. I mean, I don't know. I was just losing it, but I do remember I was like, yeah, like punching my dad on the arm, like, yeah, we did it. But the punches got like really hard, like way too hard. I was like full on, like I was just too excited. He brought it up the next day, and I was like,
he's all bruised, gets knocked out of the boat.
It was all excessive. Yeah, the fish was caught in the net, and I'm bringing the net over to the live well, telling my dad, just put it in. And he's like, Austin, like, what are you talking about? You can't put the fish in the live well in the net. It's all embarrassing. But I was like, oh yeah. And so I took it out and we put it in the live well. But
so the only thing that would have made it better, did we get any of this on film?
he took one picture of me. I didn't even want to take the picture. I was like, we got to get it in. He's like, no, we're taking a picture. So he got a picture of me with the fish. I wish we were filming. It would have been incredible.
Gabe turned me on to the filming, and I film a lot of our stuff. I just don't post a lot of stuff. It's all archived right here. And for me, it's like when I take the kids out, and if something like crazy happens, you got it on film. You just kind of forget about it back there. I know Gabe does everything is filmed. There's not a single fishing trip that I think he doesn't go on that isn't filmed anymore, because you never know what you're gonna catch on some of those adventures, right?
No, that's right. Yeah, I like to capture the moment, man. I'm always trying to get content, and I actually it's been years, other than just pond fishing, bank fishing and stuff. I typically.
You still wear your chesty a lot though too.
Sometimes I do, yeah. But there's times when if I'm just going bluegill fishing or something, I just walk down there and go. I'm not trying to make a bluegill video, although nothing wrong with making a bluegill video. They're fun to catch too.
If you want to make a crappie video, come over to the house.
Okay.
Like the boys were down there fishing this.
I want to make a Build Ants Del Coven crappie video.
How about that?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
No, we were on this weekend, and the boys were. Keegan had a friend over, and they were down there fishing, and me and a buddy walked down there. We were awesome. We did the big brother thing. We took both of their rods out of their hands, and we're like, here, let us show you how to do it. And there's a certain cast off my dock you can make every single cast and catch crappie. You just have to let it fall to a certain depth, and it's like you fall, dunk, fall, dunk.
Yeah,
I think we both caught 10 in a row, and we handed the poles back to them, and it's like, we're gonna go back to the house and go to work.
Well, we got Bryce. Bryce is in the queue back here. So before we go, appreciate your time, Austin. It was good to hear your story. And any plans for the money that you won?
I bought a couple more of those Phil Hunt glide baits. He's coming out with a new one. Yeah, it paid for my tackle that I splurged on before the tournament. So I spent it beforehand. I went down there confident.
Yeah.
There you go. I like it.
I think you're going to have every color of those that they make. And then you're probably going to have a custom painter make a few of them too for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all going back in the lake.
Yeah. So are you doing the spring Big Bass Bash? Any plans for that?
I would love to. I've done that once before. So I would love to have that again. Yeah. That would be awesome.
Cool. Well, good deal. Well, congratulations, man. And good luck in the future with everything you do. And thanks for hanging out with us for a little while and sharing your story. It's good stuff. Never give up.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'll definitely be tuning in.
All right. We'll see you later. Have a great evening.
Later, guys.
Okay.
That's an awesome story.
Right.
How about like fishing all day, kind of getting discouraged?
Basically 2 days almost without
like
feedback.
And I mean, Dad saying, "Hey, like, let's cut it out. Let's cut bait and no pun intended, but cut bait and go back to the house." And like last minute decision. It's amazing. Like we've how many years in a row have we done this? We've had the Big Bash guys on, and it's always the same thing. It's like either last minute, first cast, last cast. There's always a good story. So I'm excited.
There is.
I'm excited to hear this next one.
Yeah. Well, let's bring Bryce in.
Okay.
Bryce, you ready to come in? Thumbs up. Okay, here we go. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, not too much. How you guys doing?
Well, we're doing pretty good, man. Just hanging out and talking a little fishing.
You got a good backdrop there.
I'm working on a little fishing.
Yeah.
Making a little something I make for Table Rock.
Nice.
So
multitasking, making good use of your time.
Or you got my full attention now.
Yeah. What's going on Table
you
Rock?
Behind me, right? Like there's all kinds of fishing stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a shelf full of reels. So
you got derby coming up at Table Rock or just fun fishing?
There's the derby next weekend. Yeah, the Joe Bass fish offs down there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of that end of the year, all those tournaments. What was it? I think it's the Let's Just Fish at Lake of the Ozarks was this Sunday, and then the Warrior William tournament. All the classics are going on right now. It's that time of year, and the fishing's usually tough this time of year. That's like one of the things I noticed with the Big Bass Bash. Like the weights were down as far as like the check weights. Like a lot of 4-pound fish got those last check weights, and usually it's like 4.5 or a little bit higher. It seems like it's about a half pound down.
There was some. I'm looking at it right now. There's some like low threes.
Was there
335?
Okay.
Hang on. Saturday, or they got it backwards here. So the ladies bonus, that was they had some good weights, but so. Oh Lord, my computer's messing up.
Well, when I was looking on there earlier, it was just showing like the last day is what
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, 340, 335, 334, 351.
That's really low.
That's for last check place. That's
normally it's a 4 1/4 or something, I believe, to get that last check typically. If I remember right.
I weighed a fish in Sunday afternoon that was 3 something. I drew a check on it.
I wonder how many people, like, knowing years past, the first couple of days of just
sat on the fish or
mid threes back. Like,
yep.
You don't even think about that.
Probably a lot.
Yeah, I had a fish Saturday morning. I should have weighed in first weigh-in period and skipped it and kept the fish in the box and then weighed it when I moved up lake.
Yeah.
How many fish can you weigh in per period? Is it as many as you want? 1 per period.
1. Yep.
Okay. And there's 3 per day?
4 pay periods.
4 pay periods each day.
Yep. 2 hours.
You can get 4 checks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. What's your experience on Lake of the Ozarks?
I've been running around Lake of the Ozarks since, forever. Since I was probably 10 or 12, my folks had a place up in the Gravois. And learned the river about 20-some years ago. I learned how to run up and down the river up there. So I explored that end of the lake. But my wife and I have a place down at the 10-mile marker now. So we fish down there quite a bit too when it's not rough. So between sun up to about 10:30 in the summers, you can fish, but it's worth it. So I got a lot of experience on the lake, but not so much in recent weeks or months even. I was down there, fishing the anglers derbies in the spring, up until May. And we had a week's vacation in July, and I fished quite a bit then on the lower end. But in the last few months, not at all. I haven't been on the lake. I've been at Truman, fishing lots of tournaments up at Truman, fishing in general. So
how is Truman now? Is it fishing?
It's decent? Still tough. It's tough like the rest. I think 13, 14 pounds is going. Last weekend, I think it took 13 something to win, and there was 13s all the way first, second, and third, I think, in the FX. So,
okay.
Yeah, my son fished in that with a friend, and they had 12 something, and they were 5th. Oh, tough.
Yeah, man, that used to be. Dion's told some stories about back in the 80s or 90s when there was a lot of 25-pound bags that were weighed in, or 20 to 25-pound bags that were weighed in.
Yeah, that's unfortunately before I started fishing it, but yeah.
I know we all missed out on the heydays.
Yeah.
The good old days.
It's nothing like it used to be from what, of course, all the old timers say, but it's still pretty thick. And, there's a lot of if the trees are still alive, or still, it's not alive, but if the trees are still in the water now, they're pretty hard. So,
Yeah.
you know, so
Do you get, I know we're going to start talking about Lake of the Ozarks, but I'm kind of curious about Truman. Do you think there's a numbers of fish in there? Like on a typical day of Truman, are you getting a decent amount of bites, or are you just, is it just tough fishing all around?
you get quite a few bites.
Okay.
There's certain parts of the lake that unfortunately just don't seem to hold fish like they. I mean, they're so silted in. A lot of the little creeks and stuff way up the lake have a lot of silt that have settled in them, and which is unfortunate, you know. But the lower end of the lake has a pretty good fish population, and up some of the arms still does. Some of the arms that aren't silted in still have good fish populations.
Yeah, because Lake of the Ozarks, sometimes it's hard to come by keepers, but you're usually catching 13 and 14-inch fish. You know, there's decent numbers in there. You're going to get a bite every, I mean, not all the time, but it seems like about every 20, 30 minutes, someone's going to peck on your line. But there's some lakes where you go like 2 or 3 hours without getting a bite.
You know, at Truman, sometimes it seems like there's a year class of fish missing. I mean, Truman floods so drastically. You can't imagine them getting a very good spawn off, you know, or then they pull the bottom out of the lake. So,
yeah,
not the most conducive for spawning bass. So,
let's get into the tournament a little more. Then, you said you hadn't had a lot of time on the water prior to the tournament. Did you actually go out, you know, the day or two before and look around, or you just jump right in?
Yep, I entered Thursday night and went down Friday night, crashed at our place, got up and drove up lake a little bit and put in, and just fished up lake.
Did you have a starting spot? Any spot you had in mind?
I just started where I put in, just trying to cover a little bit of water. I threw top waters at first. You know, it's hard not to. It's hard not to throw a buzzbait in a derby like that when you're looking for one bite. And didn't take long. I picked up a flip stick, which is what I would rather do. So I just made that work. I kind of, you know, I've had some experience in years past on that lake at the end of summer and early fall, basically when it's still hot, still warm, and it was 91 or 2, you know, the weekend of the tournament of the bash. So I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. And I figured, honestly, it kind of turned out like I thought it would. It just worked out, you know. I didn't catch every fish positioned that way. I caught some on the bank in a foot of water. I caught some under docks. I caught some. I'll tell you what. I weighed in 4 fish in 2 days. One was on a jig. One was on a square bill. One was on a brush hog, and one was the one I caught the 7-pounder on was on a 2. So, just junk fishing, you know.
Yeah.
We all got favorite baits, so you just kind of cycle through. I guess I don't, you know. As the day wore on, it seemed like they started to bite better, and I also noticed the shad came up. In the morning, it was. I mean, I still caught fish, but the shad, the activity of the shad activity wasn't. They came up in the afternoon, and that seems like what kickstarted quite a bit of it. So I started getting more and more bites, and then the big fish. I mean, it wasn't anything special. I'd like to tell you, I made the most beautiful skip, 10 feet back in the shade, and all that. I did all that, and I did it 100 times. I mean, even Sunday, I fished even slower, you know, because I figured out what I needed to do. And but I just flipped it to the front of a windy dock, and the line jumped, and I set the hook on the fish. Wasn't anything special.
Something you did hundreds of times.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Do you think that fish hit it? Did it hit it on the fall, or did it hit on the bottom?
It hit it on the drop. Yeah, the dock really wasn't all that deep, so I know it hit it on the fall. And you know, with the tube, they don't fall straight down generally. Right. I mean, I was flipping this thing on an 8th.
Okay, so it had some glide, some spiral to it.
Yeah, it would. When I let it go in the water, it would just do one of these numbers, just kind of.
Yeah.
So unpredictable path. But I when I set the hook on the fish, I saw the fish in the water, the flash, and I said, and I knew it was a good fish. It was pulling like a real good fish, and it jumped. Then it jumped about 2 feet in the air, and then I really knew what I was dealing with. And when the fish hit the water and the line straightened out, I said, well, I thought just real quickly in my mind, I thought, well, we survived that. I can land this fish now. And it ran straight at the boat. And granted, I've only got, I don't know, 20 feet of line, 20 foot flip, let's say.
Okay. That was my next question.
Yeah. It wasn't very far, I'm flipping docks. And the fish ran under the boat, and I've got the net in one hand, and I thought I'd taken enough slack, and I've got my rod above my head pulling up slack, and fortunately the fish went under the boat and hit the bottom of the boat. I heard it bonk the bottom of the boat, and it just came over and rolled over, and I scooped it. Just like
it was meant to be at that point, right? Like,
yeah, because when the fish jumped, you're like, oh my gosh, and plus with the tube, the hookup ratio sometimes can be tricky. I mean, if you don't get them, and I had a rattle in it too, which took up some more space in the bait.
Yeah.
So, and I also knew I did not have the hook in it that I really wanted. I had just put this tube on, and I had it on just a 4-aught EWG, and I really prefer a straight shank hook with the tube. Yeah. But I didn't have that going. So it all worked out. You know what I mean? So pretty well.
That tube is you're right about that. It has a tendency to ball up and take away the gap on the hook. And there's hooks that you need to be thrown to increase the chances of you getting that sucker in the boat. And I think we've all done that. We're flipping a brush hog or whatever, we're going down the bank flipping, and we're like, I'm just going to try this tube. Instead of sitting down and getting the right hook, we just, string up a tube and start fishing it. And, like you said, everything worked out. Thank God,
Yeah. I'm like you, Bryce, that like I have, there is one hook on the market that I throw a tube with, and I'm the same way. Like, you know that you got 100% confidence in that hook to do its job. But when you don't have either your straight shank or the tube hook that I use, like, you don't have a ton, especially if he jumps out there at 2 feet, your heart sinks just a little bit.
Yeah. I got a good look at the fish. Yeah. But you try not to think about it. It all happens so fast, and having some experience helps, helps calm the nerves, I suppose, I've definitely caught bigger fish. I've caught bigger bass, but I've never caught anything so important or worse.
Have you ever caught $100,000 fish before?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I last spring, 2 springs ago, I went down to Florida and caught a giant tarpon, and that was pretty big, but it wasn't worth what this thing was worth. So, in fact, the tarpon cost me a couple grand to fish for. So, by the time I tipped him. So, anyway, a whole nother story for another day.
Yeah, those saltwater fish are something else, though.
Oh my gosh,
they are so strong.
Snook are bass on steroids. They are incredible fish, and they bite like fish should bite. Sometimes our fish aren't the most aggressive, but man, those saltwater fish, I wouldn't want to live down there with those hurricanes. But man, it's fun to visit and fish. So
yeah, I agree. We used to go down we'd stay on Dolphin Island in near Mobile, and we'd go out and tie up on those oil rigs out in the bay. or in the Gulf, and
Yeah.
man, it's a whole nother world out there at night. It's crazy. We catch those king mackerel. You know, it's a lot of them are, you know, mid 40 to low 50s, you know, inch fish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they'll give you all you want as far
Yeah.
as a fight.
Yeah, the saltwater fish, that is incredible. If no one's ever experienced it, they should try. Go on a snook fishing trip. They're a little easier to catch than the tarpon, but I found a guy down there in Fort Myers that, man, the old boy knows what he's doing. I mean, and he works and works and works, and so we keep going back to see him. But a lot of
I got
fun.
a couple buddies that go down to Louisiana and go red fishing every year.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
That looks like an absolute ball.
I do too. That's something. My son caught a good one down there in Florida a couple years ago. A really nice redfin, but no, I've not done that. That looks like a lot of fun, and they live like that deep.
Yeah, and they love topwater too.
Yeah, that's true. I got to believe they'd eat a whopper plopper or something.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, all those saltwater fish, I mean, they eat that bait like it's their last meal. Like they're mad at the world on everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's quite an experience. So
somebody wants to hear a. Let's see here.
Smithville?
Yeah, Steve says, Bryce, please give me an old Smithville story. That lake was on fire back in the day.
That lake was brutal. I fished that lake. I used to live up in Independence, so I was a little closer to the lake. And I started to fish Smithville quite a bit when my son was born. You know, I just didn't travel as much. I wanted to be at home. And so I stuck around Smithville. And, man, I tell you what, you want to talk about smart fish. And a lot of fishing pressure. But it's a lake that's full of sticks and stumps and stuff. Caught a lot of big fish up there. It still burps out big fish. It's wild. But there's a lot of fishing pressure up there. But I finally had enough. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I started fishing Truman a lot more. And I moved to Pleasant Hill, so that's a lot closer to the lake Truman too. So
yeah. What is Smithville? What's the normal water clarity? Is it a clear lake, or has it got some stain like Lake of the Ozarks?
You know, it's a pretty dirty lake. It's on the Platte River, and it's got a fair amount of color in it. It's got big trees in it, huge oak trees in it. It's pretty cool. At one time I fished it, it was full of hydrilla. And not full of it, but it had a lot of hydrilla in it, and it really, really helped with fishing. The fishing came around, and it was really good. And then, you know, I don't know what happened to it. It's gone.
We asked about these Ultra View Heroes.
What's up, Rich? Good to see you on here. So when you got that fish in the boat, you know, I mean, that's a big fish. But did you think? What were your thoughts on the possibilities that would actually hold up? Okay, so what day did you catch it? Did you catch it on Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday about 1:30.
Okay, so you had to sweat.
Yeah, about 1:15.
You had to sweat it out a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Once I got the fish in the boat, I sat down and I was standing there and I unhooked the fish and I picked it up, turned it, and it had the sides of it were just. I mean, you just know, and it's got those big, but the eyes are starting to bug out on it, and so I threw it in the live well. I'm trying to remember. I think I had I had two fish in there, so I had to get rid of one. So I threw him out, and then I took some ice bottle. I had some ice bottles in the boat with me, frozen jugs of ice, and I threw it in there, and then put some catch and release in with it. Made sure the water was good and blue.
Yeah, because it's 90, right? The air temperature.
Yeah, it was 90 or 91 by then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I checked, then I sat down and I grabbed my phone and I'm like, good grief, what time is it? I put the boat on spot lock and just kind of chilled out for a minute, slammed half a bottle of water and sat there for a minute. And of course, I'm shaking, I wasn't even thinking about the money yet. Just catching a fish that big as bass fishermen, it's going to make you shake. You can't help it. So, and then honestly, guys, I called my wife. Being a fisherman's wife, it's tough, but she was the first one I called. And I said, I just caught a really, really big bass. And she said, oh yeah, are you in a tournament? I'm like, well, yes. And I think she was at a soccer game or something, my daughter's soccer game or something. So she was kind of like, so do you have 5? I'm like, no, it's not that kind of tournament. I don't really remember everything she said. It was really kind of a big moment.
She was telling you to start casting if you only had one in the boat.
Right. You need 4 more, fool. Yeah.
It is late afternoon and you're calling me with 1 fish in the boat. What in the world are you doing?
All right. So she says, well, okay, so you're in a big bass tournament. What's it worth? And I said, well, big fish is worth $100 grand plus a little more for winning pay period. And she goes, well, let's just not talk about it anymore. I had a couple hours left on Saturday and then a whole day Sunday. So we just tried not to talk about it. And I pulled the trolling motor up, put my life jacket on, and I ran down the lake and waded the fish in. And then when I waded in, I knew it was a 6-pounder. But I had no idea it would weigh 7. And 7 pounds, 5 ounces. I mean, it was just mind blowing. Plus it's, first part of October. We have not had a cool spell until this week. So, the fish didn't seem like the fishing was very good. Cause I looked at the weights, and then when Randy Conlett weighed it in and, he's like, man, I bet you that does it. And I said, boy, I don't know, Randy, don't say that,
Yeah, right.
So that's the last thing you want to hear on Saturday about 1 o'clock, right?
Right. And so I walked, took some, obviously we took a bunch of pictures, and then I walked down to the water with Randy, and Randy just dumped it right in the water and swam away. I was like, well, thanks for that. It was a short relationship between me and that fish, because I only had the fish in the box probably 15 minutes.
Yeah. All this build up,
Mm-hmm.
and then boom, it spills over. And then the anxiety of the weight, the drama.
And like from the tournament angler's perspective, like usually that's even if it's only a couple hours, you're babysitting that fish, right? Like,
yeah,
Lake of the Ozarks, you catch a 6+ pounder in a tournament, you pretty well want to make sure she stays alive before you get there.
Especially in the heat. The hot water there's less oxygen in the hot water. So usually in the heat, we use a lot of ice. We just freeze jugs.
Absolutely.
And that works great. But this, the water was in the 70s, mid 70s. So I wasn't too worried.
Yeah.
But I could tell you this, when I saw there were some big waves, I slowed way down for because I didn't want to upset her.
Yep.
I mean, because if you upset a big fish, they might lose a big shad or something, So it happens. It happens.
Yeah. And they're stressed out from the fight that they went through. There was all kinds of drama that went on in 20 seconds for them.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they're in a dark enclosure that they can barely turn around in.
Yeah.
And they're bouncing around, and you're right. You just don't want to stress those fish out. They could die, or they could regurgitate a 8-ounce shad or whatever.
Yeah. And honestly, after I weighed that fish in, I don't even remember if I guess I mean, I was probably 8 or 10 miles from weigh in, so I didn't want to run back up there. It was late. So I just basically, I think I fished a little bit more and then went in. I just put it on the trailer.
You get any sleep that night?
Yeah, I did. I slept all right. You know, I made dinner. I had some things to do at my place. I worked on my tackle. Had a couple beers and went to sleep. Pretty much like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't, I really, honestly, guys, the nerves that I had, the bulk of the nerves that I had was between getting that fish next to the boat, getting it in the boat, in the live well, and then I had 8 or 10 miles of running to focus myself on something else.
Yeah.
So you kind of forget. I mean, you don't forget, but you're kind of like preoccupied. I don't want to hit that big wave. Is there a log there? You know, you're running back down the river. You got to be focused on what's in front of you.
Yeah. So Phil says you were fishing by yourself. Were you fishing by yourself? Okay.
Yeah. Alone. Yep.
Yeah, there's I know what you're saying. It's like you hook a fish and you see it, but that time from when it comes up to when it actually gets in the net, that's like time slows down, almost stands still. It's, you know, it's only 10 feet away from the net, but so much can happen right there. You know, we've had fish just pull off for no reason or make a weird turn and snap your line, or just a lot can happen right there in those couple seconds, especially with a big fish like that.
Yeah. Well, from the time, let's say from the time I set the hook to the time that fish hit the bottom of the boat was less than 10 seconds. It just happens that fast.
Yeah.
I mean,
it knocked itself out. That helped. The fish knocked itself out. That helped.
Well, right, for sure. Yeah, it just she was fine. I mean, she didn't knock herself out, but whatever. It stunned her. I got her in the net.
You definitely got slowed down a little bit.
Yeah. And honestly, the next set of nerves that I felt, you know, was getting up on stage in front of a bunch of folks. You know, that's an unnatural act for someone like me.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, Al does a great job of interviewing people. I mean, he will not leave you hanging out there when he asks you something. He'll realize, okay, he said what he's going to say, and you know, he's a great interviewer and a great weighmaster for sure. So, but no, just standing there talking about fishing like I'm talking to you guys, then I don't have any nerves, because it's one thing I like to do is fish.
Yeah. Yeah, amen to that. I'm the same way. It's like when like a couple weeks ago, I fished a regional at Pickwick, and I thought maybe I was going to do, you know, on the third day coming back. I thought, regardless, I knew I was going to have to walk across the stage and I was going to have to talk in front of the mic, and I'm not the most comfortable at public speaking as well. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm comfortable right now talking fishing with you guys, and I'm comfortable in front of my own personal camera. Because if I say something stupid, I can edit it out. And nobody will even know that I said something stupid. And a lot of times I do a couple takes before it actually makes the show. But when you're on stage, it's real time. And not only that, you have a lot of adrenaline going from, you're tired, obviously, because you've been out in the sun all day. You've been fishing all day. Who knows what kind of sleep you've had the last couple of days. And then there's this adrenaline buildup, and all of a sudden you are expected to speak and to like get your thoughts together and make some sense. And there's a microphone in your face, and you're looking out, and there's people looking at you. That's tough. My wife is awesome at it. She blows me away. She can get in front of a crowd of people and just speak and sound articulate. And I've always admired that. And it's a lot harder for me to get in the right mindset and not get cloudy. Because if you get cloudy, you're in trouble. You can't gain your thoughts. And so, yeah, I know what you mean, man. it's a little bit tricky when you're up there on stage talking to people for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard you won a boat a couple weeks ago. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did. I want a Phoenix, a 19-foot-8 Phoenix. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do about it because they don't just give you the boat. You got to pay taxes and
Sure.
There's upgrades and stuff.
Sure.
So I have an 02 Ranger. It's a 520 VX, which is a great boat, and I actually took it out today and I pulled it out here in the garage and washed it up, and I'm thinking about maybe selling it and using that money to either pay the taxes or maybe do some upgrades on the new boat if I decide to keep it. Yeah. But I'm not sure what I want to do yet. I'm just kind of floating it around. I've got until January 5th to use the certificate.
Right. So
I got a little bit of time to try to get it together. I've called a couple dealerships and got some quotes on some upgrades. Basically it's just going to be electronics upgrades and a trolling motor upgrade. But I feel like if I'm going to invest in that boat even more, I want to have it as least tricked out as my John boat, like my 16-foot John boat. I don't, so it comes with the Phoenix comes with like 5-inch graphs.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know they made 5-inch graphs, but nothing against people that have 5-inch graphs, but it's hard to see much. I'm not 20 years old. My eyesight's not the greatest. And I think even when I was 20,
your channel from the 10-horse miner to the bougie Baston guy or something.
No, man. I will always keep my 10 rig. I've had some people say you should sell your aluminum boat and use that money. No, I'll never sell that aluminum boat.
Gotta have a beater.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter, man. I love that. I love that thing. We have too many small lakes around here to give that up.
Yeah.
We got 10 lakes in the probably within an hour. That are 10 horsepower and under lakes.
Okay.
And then beyond, to get to a lake that you could run your big motor in is beyond all of those lakes.
Yeah.
So anything that's close to us is our little lakes where we both kind of are our bread and butter.
Cool.
I've had a Ranger in the past. He still has a Ranger, and he's got a new one that's going to be on the way, it sounds like, pretty soon. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
What's the certificate for? Is it a Phoenix? But what model?
It is the
919
819 Pro.
819.
With the 200 Merc.
That's a great boat. I've got a 919 sitting behind me, and it's the same hull as the 819. The 919 is a little more tricked out, and you could put a 225 on it.
So you like the boat? You've had it for a while? Or?
I'm getting ready to order another one.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Either one the dealer has or I love the Phoenix.
That hull's kind of like short, fat, wide, and fast, right?
Mm-hmm. It's got a really great V hull up front, and that cuts the waves. And it runs, but it also has a really good pad. It runs really good on its pad, on its tail. Yeah, real controllable.
Gotcha. It got a pretty wide front deck, if I remember right?
Yeah. Yep. Even for a 19-footer. They're just great boats. They ride so good. This is my first one. I've been really impressed. Now, my fishing partner, Mike, he's had a couple of them, and to me, that's a real testament of a bass boat is how's your as a driver, it never hurts as bad as it does as a passenger when you bump one. Right. So being a passenger in his Phoenix sold me. Let me just say that. And so I bought one.
Yeah. I've said this on the stream before, but as a co-angler fishing in the BFLs, I've ridden in pretty much everything out there. You name it. Maybe not an Allison, but I've ridden in, bullets and gamblers and, and then all the more common stuff. And Phoenix is my top 3 for sure. A Vexus would be right up there, but that's a whole nother price point. But I've ridden in several 721s, and I love that. I just hadn't hadn't ridden in the 819 yet. But I love Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix makes a really good boat for sure.
They're well built, not just the way they ride and how they feel, but the way they're built. They're built really well. We've all been in bass boats, and you hear that when you hit the right wave, you hear that hollow sound, bong. But you don't hear that in this boat. Never have. I've hit plenty of waves with it. Being on like the Ozarks.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. And when you put a 225 on a 19-foot boat, they haul the mail. So
yeah. So what are you getting, like low 70s maybe on that?
Depending on the best I've seen in cold water and good conditions was 75. That was with me in it.
Wow.
Just me, and let's say winter tackle, so just lighter amounts of tackle, not as much junk, light tackle. But yeah, 75.
That's still moving in a 19 foot.
That's fast.
That's really fast. Now with tournament gear and in cooler water, with two of us, and full tournament load, you'll still see 71, 72, depending on conditions. The weather and makes a big difference how well the boat runs.
And if you're fishing Lake of the Ozarks, you're not hitting 70, except
in the morning.
If your boat won and it's glass.
Yeah, I tell you what, guys, I've seen some ski boats. Those guys get out early too, and I've seen some ski boat waves I don't want any part of.
Nope. It doesn't matter, but that doesn't matter if you're in a 19-foot boat or a 22-foot boat.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
You're a bath toy in Lake of the Ozarks is what I always tell folks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been fishing. I've had waves come over the boat running. I've had waves come over the front end fishing. But, sometimes there's a reason I'm sitting out on that point taking a beating. Because it's working. So, yeah. Yeah. If you order that boat, Gabe, you won't be disappointed.
Okay.
Trust me, they're awesome boats. So,
okay, yeah, I was talking to the regional marketing guy for I think his name is Greg Stone, if I remember right. But anyway, I was asking him about the top end and different loads and stuff, and he was saying it's a 70 to 71 mile an hour boat, and then 67, 68. Fully loaded tournament, live wells full of water and stuff. And that's what the 200 on it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's
cooking.
That's plenty for me. I mean, that's plenty. And I actually like that length. I looked into upgrading to the 721. And so I have a $50,000 certificate, and they would only give me 35 towards a boat upgrade. So that kind of turned me off of it a little bit. Plus, it's a lot more money, obviously, to get a 721. But the more I got to thinking about it, it's it's not like it's an 18.5 foot and they're calling it a 19. It's a 19.8, which is closer to 20 than it is to 19. And it's got that 96-inch beam, and it's got a good hull. So I was thinking about it. I'm like, that's actually a perfect size for me. And in this area, we have a lot of lakes that are less than 3,000 acres. Mm-hmm. And they don't get rough at all. And then you're out there fishing on Lake of the Ozarks just fine with it. Mm-hmm. Kentucky Lake's 2 hours from here. That's probably the lake that I'd be fishing the most as far as a bigger lake. So yeah, I'm not worried about the size of the boat at all. But it is good to hear that you're happy with that platform.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, my partner Mike has a 819 with a 200, and that's what you'll see. You'll see about you can see 68 when the weather's cooler and full load, two guys. It'll drop. When it gets hot, it just it knocks a mile or two off of every boat. So
yeah,
no, he loves his. This is his third one or fourth one that he's owned. So they're awesome boats.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. You'd want a boat, man. That's cool. But especially that's hard to do out of the back of the boat. I mean, you don't have any, you don't have any. You just go.
Over 3 days at that, right? Like,
yeah, you have to just, I had 3 different style of boaters too in that tournament. The first day, the guy I fished with, we were fishing where channels dumped into the main river, kind of post spawn, pre-spawn type spots. When you think the fish are going out to the main river channel, those kind of areas where they would station, there was a little bit of current breaks in those areas, and we were fishing really slow, really soaking our baits. So as a co-angler, that's probably your best kind of draw. You get a chance to really work bait slow and figure it out. And
yeah,
I had a solid day that day, and then in day 2 was drew a guy that was live scoping consistently. He fished for the MPFL. Great guy. We had fun. We had great conversation, but those dudes are really hard to catch fish behind. And
yeah,
I got lucky and caught one nice fish, and that basically got me into day 3. And then day 3, we ran all the way up to the bottom of the dam and fished the tailwater. So 3 completely different days, and required 3 completely different mindsets. And I just got fortunate.
Yeah, for sure. That's something going way back, I fished out of the back of the boat. And it was different. I didn't have a 3-day format like that, but even one day was tough.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it is.
Yep. And especially when you've pre-fished with someone and you know what you could be doing. So
yeah, I know. You're right. That's happened before where we're pre-fishing in on a pretty good bite, and then it doesn't work that way in a tournament. You're doing something completely different. And I'm usually the kind of guy that's I'm pretty passive for the most part. I just try to adjust. I'm not gonna say, hey man, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. If it presents itself, I may make a subtle comment about it, just a suggestion. But I'm typically just I'm along for the ride. I'm trying to adjust to the situation. And so I've never been one to. Every once in a while, a guy will say, hey, I'm not on anything at all. So if you want to go fish certain spots, that's fine. But even then, I'm like, well, the guy I practice with, those are probably his spots, I have my own spots too, so that's different. But I'm not the guy that's going to give away my buddy's spots to some guy that I just met for one day. That's not who I am. So
yeah,
it's tricky.
That's
so on day 2, Bryce. So you're sitting. What was your strategy on day 2? Were you like, I'm going to go catch a 7.5 pounder, or you said you cashed a few more checks too? So obviously you were fishing.
Yeah, I catch a total of 4.
That's awesome.
Sunday, I wasn't really nervous because I just went fishing. And at one point in time, my phone was absolutely blowing up. So I actually shut it off. Because just bang, bang, constantly getting texts and phone calls and stuff. So I just shut the phone off for about 4 hours and didn't do anything but focus on fishing. And that calmed my nerves down a little bit. But no, I went right back up to the same stuff. And let's see, I caught one. Let's say around noon or something, and I didn't run that fish down to weigh it in. I mean, like I said, I'm running back down the lake about 8 or 10 miles to the weigh-in, and then I caught one again about 115 or 130 I thought it was 5 pounds. And right then and there, I just stopped. I put my rods away. I just put everything up and drove back down lake, weighed one fish in, went back outside the buoys, waited till the final period was 1 to 3, waited till 105, drove in, weighed the fish in, and went and put it on the trailer and drove over to PB2. I drove back to our place and met my family, and then we drove over to PB2 for the awards deal.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But yeah, I caught another one up there, and I thought, oh my gosh, did I really just catch another fish over 5? It didn't quite weigh 5, but it was 486 or something. It's a good fish. And I initially weighed it in Of course, I waded in right away. It was probably one of the first fish waded in the last period, but that was pretty wild. So
you had 4 checkfish. That's a phenomenal weekend just to get 4 checkfish, even if that one wasn't, $100,000 fish. It's difficult to get 4 checkfish. So
this year was a little different on the lake. I watched the Toyota series stuff going on, and usually the lake is, it's wide open sometimes. You can catch them on both ends of the lake. And I didn't really, my plan originally going into the tournament was fish upriver on Saturday there's a south wind on Saturday. I knew that. And it was forecast to have a north wind on Sunday. And I thought, well, okay, maybe what I'll do is fish upriver on Saturday. And then Sunday I'll drop the boat in right below my trailer there at 10-mile marker. And I'll just go fishing. But I didn't drop the boat in at the 10. I went back up lake on Sunday for good reason. So,
yeah. Phil says, how far past Rainy Creek can you run before it starts getting tricky?
It starts getting tricky at Rainy. I think it's Horseshoe Bend there. You got to stay on one side of the lake, the deep side of the lake, and then the channel wanders through. But once you get above Rainy, it's tricky. It really is. You can be running in 25 feet of water and get over too far, and you're in a foot.
Oof.
It gets, and the lake is, at that time was almost 2 feet low. So, but you got to know where you're going. And then once you get up past the 80, it gets right back into its channel, and it's a lot easier to navigate. But you got to know where you're going up there. And then, of course, even when you get out of the channel, the main Osage River channel, you're risking it running around back in some of them creeks. I've done it, but it's tough. You got to know where you're going. And even at that, I do a lot of idling, just so I don't crash a lower unit.
Yeah. It makes you nervous. Like it's down lake, it's big, wide open. You can run wherever you want. You don't really have to think about it. And you get used to that. And then when you get up in that skinny water, you're even that more nervous. Yeah. If the whole lake was like that, you'd kind of be, conditioned to that's what you're just dealing with all the time. But it's a completely different environment from the other end of the lake.
Yeah. Yeah. And up there's no channel markers, and a lot of and some of the lakes, river lakes like Kentucky, there's channel markers. Mm-hmm. There's none of that going on up there. The only channel markers you might have up there is the logs. That's the flat over there with the logs on it. So
yeah,
it's tricky, and it took me a long time. And of course, I had friends, that showed me around up there a long time ago, so that's helpful.
Yeah, but a system like that, it changes too.
I'm gonna get some more water real quick.
You're good. You get a good rain. Like we fish a lake Wapapello around here, and Doug with Auto Trieve was on earlier. But it takes one good rain, and that log that was there is not there, or your marker that you've had for it could have been 5 or 10 years is gone.
Yeah, push them around. Yeah, for sure. And also in some of the smaller creeks off the main Osage, there's a lot more silt in them, and so sitting on top of the silt now. So it's I don't buzz around quite as freely as I used to. Plus, I'm older and I paid for too many lower units. You learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, that experience, when it starts costing you money, you pay attention. It's funny. Sometimes I wonder why I do things a certain way. I have a process of doing things a lot of times, and usually it's because it's the most efficient way that I've came up with. Not saying it's the most efficient way ever, but for me personally, it's the most efficient way that I've learned to do something. And every once in a while, I'll do it in a different order, whatever it is. And it reminds me of why I do it in the order that I currently do. And you could apply that to going into a cove and you always idle through that cove. And then one day you decide to run and you blow your, you hit your lower unit and it costs you however many thousands of dollars. And you're just reminded, okay, that's why I do this a certain way, because I know better.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have to be reminded of those things.
Truman's a lot like that. It's, man, those trees, they're not forgiving. And there's certain trees I run between, you know what I mean, to get up in places and things like that. And people say, man, I can't believe you run that. Well, I idled it 20 times before I ran it. So there's a lot more water, the boat in the water when you're idling.
So you said you won on it. You caught that big fish on a tube?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? What kind of, you got a certain tube that you like, or what kind of tube was it?
That was a Crock Gator tube. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's been my favorite tube as well.
Yep. It was green pumpkin and blue with green pumpkin body and blue tail. Blue.
Man, that's my favorite. That's my favorite one too.
Yeah.
It's a good bait.
There's something about blue. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it is. It's just that's a good. I like to fish it. So you were just Texas rigging it, right? With an 1/8 ounce weight. That's what you said.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Texas
20-pound test or
20-pound Seaguar. Yep.
All right, gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I like to throw that thing like a stupid tube. Throw it on with a jig head on the inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
It skips a little bit better like that.
Oh,
it
yeah.
has a little bit different gliding action.
Yeah. That's old school there. That's going back to the Gitsit days, way back with the Hiptons and everything. I remember reading about Dad skipping that tube around and rig like that. Guido, he spinning rod, just you'd see him. He wrote, and I read a lot about him skipping them things. But that's not what I was doing. This is a big flipping tube. So,
yeah, I think Guido's motto was you can't worry about getting the fish out after you get the bite, because I think he used a lot of light line, like he
got to catch him before you got to worry about getting him out, right?
Yeah, he'd skip a tube way back in there with like 8-pound test or something, and just guide the fish out.
Yeah.
Let's give away a pack of Crock Gator tubes. I think we can give away a pack of Crock Gator tubes since the man won $100,000 fish. I'll take care of that. I'll tell you what, let me set this up while you guys talk a little bit. I'll set up there's a little StreamYard giveaway tool here, and we can give away a pack. So what are you gonna, okay, let's back up. You drove to PB2, you're pulling up, and you're just, what are you doing? Just sitting there waiting to hear, or did you actually get out and kind of mingle? And I'm like you said, I'm sure you're getting a bunch of text.
We said you had your family with you, right?
Yeah, I took my little girl was with me and my son, and
Awesome.
and a good friend of mine met me over there, and they feed everybody. I'd never been to an award ceremony for the Big Bass Bash, and they feed anybody that shows up. It's crazy. We all have burgers and bratwurst, whatever. And then, the coolest part, I said this last week to somebody, one of the coolest parts about that, they gave away more trophies and stuff to the kids than they did to us. Of course, the top 4, they kind of, for us guys and the ladies division, they made a big deal out of that. But those kids, man, for catching catfish and sunfish, oh, they freaked out. It was cool to see the kids get a trophy and all that. So that was really cool to see. And there's a lot of folks there at the award ceremony too. So, and they gave a boat away, draw boat there too. So pretty cool atmosphere for sure.
I've never been to the ceremony. I fished it before, but I've never had anything worth showing up to the ceremony for, really.
Me either. I think I drew one check years ago in this derby, and that was it.
Well, you kind of came in last minute too, right? Like it wasn't it wasn't a decision that was made 3 or 4 months ago. You said Thursday night?
Well, yeah, I entered Thursday. We'd been really busy at work, and so I'd been working some overtime, and I just kind of held off. And then I realized, later in the week, yeah, I'm definitely going to be off this weekend. So I'll just go ahead and jump in it. And my son didn't want to go. So I went. Yeah.
Too bad for him, huh?
Yeah. He came to the award ceremony. Well, he's 20 years old, so there's other things to do. So
definitely, I understand.
Yeah. There's other things to chase around besides little green fish, right?
That's what he said. Yeah.
All right. Obviously, if you guys want to win some tubes, hashtag capital TUBE, all caps, and make sure you put that hashtag. And we'll let this run for a little bit, and then we will we'll give that away. And we're going to give away a Baitworks $25 Baitworks gift card right after this too. So just stay tuned. So you had to go across the stage, and you said you were a little bit anxious about going across the stage. Big Al helped you out, huh?
Oh yeah. He's good at interviewing, man. He doesn't leave you hanging. He realizes when you either stumbling or haven't, or you've completed your thought. So, and he steps in and asks you he's always asked good questions that you can answer easily,
Right.
But I don't know. I wouldn't say it was nerves. It was just, it was kind of just soaking it all in, I guess. It's kind of weird winning something like this because you think, oh, I'm going to do this or that, and then it could potentially be life-changing money to someone. I haven't spent a dime of it. It's just sitting in the bank right now. We're just kind of sitting back and relaxing, and we'll see. But I'm probably going to get a new Phoenix and then put the rest of it in savings. I don't know. But I got to save some for the tax man. So
I know, man.
That tax man's mean when it comes to those big checks.
Oh yeah, he's going to get me. Yep.
Yeah, like my buddies were saying, where was he at in the boat when you caught all those fish? He wasn't even netting the fish.
He was in the woods.
Didn't get up at 4:30 and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh man, I had the first time. I have 2 daughters that are 16, and they've been working. I've told this story before, but I think it's funny. It's worth telling again. But they started working when they were 14 at this place called TJ's, which is it's just a burger and hot wings joint right up the street. And they were washing dishes. Well, when taxes came due, my wife and we let the CPA do our taxes, but the CPA wanted like $80 a piece for our kids. And I'm like, this is super, entry level tax filing deal. I'm going to save the money and I'll just do it ourselves. I'll do it at home. It's not like they had a house and a car and all this other stuff to write off. It was just pretty straightforward. So, I did it, and they were in the kitchen when I finished up the taxes, and I told them, I said, okay, Ella, you owe $80, and Sophia, you owe $80 as well. And Ella was like, to who? I said, to the government. You owe $80. That's your taxes for the year. Everybody has to file taxes. And she said, why? I said, well, it's the government. What did they do? They didn't help do anything. They didn't work. They weren't even right. Why? And I said, that's a good question, but welcome to the real world. It's just gonna continue to grow and grow and grow. But that was that reality. The first time they discovered what tax is.
All right. I gotta poke fun at the bear here. So, did you tell them thank you when they paid their taxes? You do work for the United States Postal Service.
No, I covered their taxes for them because they were very responsible young women, and they went out there and busted their butt. So, as a father that's proud of my daughters, I covered their taxes.
Good man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But this car insurance thing, now that's getting a little different. I'm gonna have to they're gonna have to pay like $25 a month or something, you know?
Yeah.
Because car insurance is insane for your kids.
Yeah. Especially at 16.
Yeah.
Well, as a former insurance salesman, there's a reason why insurance is expensive for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Same
You're exactly right.
The same reason at 16 I wasn't allowed to have a 4-wheel drive truck, because I was told young boys take their 4-wheel drive trucks back into places that they shouldn't.
That's right. And
So-
they typically drive a little faster.
Yeah.
I saw a good one today about it was a mechanic. His son had just got a speeding ticket, got pulled over, and he'd been wanting these new tires on his truck. So, you know, as a good mechanic, he found him a set of Swampers to put on his truck, and they were used tires. They still had plenty of life left on them, but he said when you hit about 60, 65 mile an hour, you better be ready to drive it like an old TR-21. Like it's going to drive you. It ain't going to you ain't going to drive it. So he killed two birds with one stone. He got the tires that his kids wanted, and two, he can't speed anymore.
That's a good idea. I'll have to remember that one. Yeah, sure. You want to upsize those tires? Yeah, no problem.
That's right.
All right, let's give these tubes away here.
Let's do it.
Dan Martinez. Congratulations. Hit me up, Dan, on Facebook at Gabe Montgomery Fishing, or 10 Horse Monty, or Instagram at 10 Horse Monty 6. And I'll just get some information from you, and we will get you taken care of. Let's remove that. I'm gonna set up another one. We're gonna give away this Baitworks gift card too.
Heck yeah.
We'll do it upright. Let's see. So you got the money in the bank. You're probably gonna buy you a new Phoenix.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's kind of sitting there. I'm pretty busy, you know, with fishing. The last weekend I was down at Table Rock, and then I'm leaving Thursday morning to go back.
How's Table Rock fishing?
Pretty tough. I think the Charger Champ owners tournament last weekend took 26 pounds.
Holy cow.
2 days.
Wow.
Jeez.
2 days. So tough. But I caught a fish.
2 days.
Oh, 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days. 2
Okay.
days.
Gotcha. I thought it was 1 day. I'm like, tough. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, 2 days. So yeah, it's been pretty tough. I caught a fish Sunday that was the right size. Sunday afternoon. So we'll see. And I caught it right before we put it on the trailer. So and I'm fishing that with my son. So got him revved up. He went to Bass Pro tonight. So yeah, he's all fired up. Yeah.
Hey, at least he went to Bass Pro. My son goes to. I caught them down on the dock this weekend, and they had my stuff sitting down there on the dock. Well, I walked down there, and he's like, "Dad, they were fortunately they were just crappie fishing, but he goes, Dad, you're about out of hooks." I said, "I wasn't about out of hooks when you came down here." He's like, "I think we're gonna have to go to the store and get you some more."
Yeah.
I think you want to get your piggy bank, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's part of it, you know.
Oh yeah.
When you have, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, bad stuff for kids to do, and them going fishing, you know. And it was funny, my daughter really hasn't expressed. We have fished and she has caught a few, but it's usually like, all right, I'm gone. Look at the butterfly over there, you know.
Yeah, squirrel.
Gone, you know. But at the award ceremony, she's like, I'm fishing next year. So we'll see. So she might have to fish with her brother. I'm not sure I could fish, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you not fish it if you won?
I don't know the rules exactly. I know there was a $12,000 maximum if you had made 12 grand a year prior, I believe. You could not enter.
Okay.
So I'm assuming the rule is in place for another year or so.
Well, so the last year's winner, and I assume that didn't Shane win in the fall last year?
Tinsley, is that right?
Yeah.
I think it. I can't remember. I can't remember when it was. Was it the fall?
I don't remember. He was fishing it this year. I saw him post on there, so I don't know if it was.
Well, maybe he won it in the spring.
Maybe.
And so the spring would have been a year, and then he could have fished the fall. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah, but I know there is something, Bryce. Now that you say that about the amount of money you've won, because they don't want professionals to be in that tournament. That kind of eliminates some of the the sticks and the hammers in the area that they're always cashing checks.
Yep. T Beaver says that's not true. He says if you win the bash, you can still fish it again right after.
Okay. Good enough.
But I bet I would confirm that with TDs and Big Al, Randy Collin.
Yeah. So. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like that ideal. I mean, it keeps it an amateurs tournament, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll have to ask Al about that. I was hoping he'd be on here. He could chime in. Okay, well, let's give this one more minute, and then we'll give away this Baitworks gift card, and then we'll wrap it up. See here. See if we got any more questions on here. So what's next year? Do you fish a certain? You said Joe Bash. Do you fish any other divisions, or you got everything lined up for next year?
We fish the Anglers in Action Ozarks division.
Okay, cool.
And the Joe Bass at Truman generally, and then I fish whenever I can at Truman. Any of the other little tournaments. There's
always something to fish there in that area.
Oh yeah, and I don't get in everything. I at some point in time during the summer when it gets really hot, we go down to our place at the Ozarks and I float around in an inner tube. So I need a break. So yeah,
understandable.
Nothing wrong with that.
Truman's a lot of fun, but man, and late in the year, it just gets really, really tough, and it gets real inconsistent. You can catch them really good one day, and the very next morning or next day, you can go over there and it's the shad moved. I don't know.
Well, in that lake, man, you got to spend some time on that lake to figure it out because, like you said, there's a lot of areas that aren't holding fish for they're silted in or for whatever reason. Then you've got the missing classes of spawners at certain times, but then it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of it looks similar. You got standing timber everywhere and you got rock. So it's one of those lakes I would imagine. I've only fished it a handful of times, but it's kind of like a lake that's got a lot of hydrilla mats in it and stuff. You look at it and you're like, there could be fish anywhere. How do you break that down? And that's something that just takes time, I guess.
Yeah, and Truman's very diverse. I mean, the Tebow arm of the lake is generally really pretty clear, generally. The Grand is generally it's got quite a bit of color. The Osage, we all know the Osage is a pretty dirty body of water. And then the Palmy arm is generally pretty clear as well. So not like Table Rock clear by no means. But usually you usually get 3 or 4 feet in the summer when it settles, the water settles. And then the crazy thing about Truman is it will flood. And I have seen that lake go up 2 feet in a couple hours.
Oh, wow.
It goes up so fast. It's unbelievable. I think the most I've seen it go up in a day was probably almost 4 feet.
Dang.
And it just turns into a flooded jungle. And that's taken some time to figure that bite out, and then you deal with them pulling all the water out of the lake, So it has its quirks for sure. And little nuances that have taken me some time to figure out.
Do you think those fish follow the moving water quickly, or do they have a tendency to hold off for a day or two, or do they not move up at all? You know, because like Table Rock, a lot of times they'll stay at the old bank line, even though there's 12 feet of water above them. And, you know, you think they're going to move up. Sometimes they will, but a lot of times they just kind of stay where they're at and nothing changes. Where other lakes, the fish follow fairly quickly to the new water.
It's really hard to say. I think they generally move up faster than we think. Especially if they're in the feeding mood. I've been on that lake, and overnight the water's gone up into the bushes, into the grass, not flooding the bushes, but into the bottom of the bushes where there's a foot or so, and caught fish right up there, right after it flooded, right after it went in the green stuff. Yep. But then again, some of them stay out. Some of it depends on the bank. You know, maybe they're moving up on the flat stuff or they're moving up on the steeper stuff. It's just hard to say what. And time of year, I think the spring, I don't think they move up very fast. So, because a lot of times, you know, they found their little area where they're going to lay eggs and they don't want to leave. And that's why I said earlier, the spawn down there can be messed up. We can lose year classes of fish because, you know, the fish spawned in 2 feet of water, but now there's 8 feet of dirty water over its head 3 days after a couple days after it's laid its eggs.
Yep.
Well, they can't incubate. You know, they can't. The sun isn't. It takes the sun, you know, to incubate the eggs, and they're not getting sunshine because they're way underwater now. So, yeah, it's a tricky lake. And like I said, when the water starts coming back down, then that's a whole other animal. But you know, you can get a lot of bushes. There's a lot of bushes to fish. That can be really good. Yeah. So.
All right, let's give away this Baitworks gift card here. See what happens. T Beavers. He wants me to give away a Chad Shad next year.
Well, he's got he's almost halfway there.
Yeah, you can go put in a little bit of your hard-earned money and buy you one.
There you go.
You supply the Chad Shad. I'll definitely give it away. Get a hold of me same way. Gamer Montgomery Fishing, or 10 Horse Monty 6 on Instagram, and we'll get you taken care of. Before we wrap this up, I did want to say I actually talked to Mike Russell the other day, and he's on the mend. He's had heart surgery. He's been in the hospital. He's still in the hospital. So everybody out there, thoughts and prayers to Mike Russell. He's a good friend of the channel, just a good dude all around, and we certainly want to get him out of the hospital, get him back healthy again, so he can continue to enjoy life. So things happen. There's little scares around the corner, and sometimes you find yourself in the middle of one, and that's where he was at. So it happened kind of quick, and he's in good spirits. He's in super good spirits, and he was supposed to come home possibly today, possibly tomorrow, but he's on the mend, and you know, he's got the right mindset to power through all this. But I believe in, you know, I really believe in prayers and thoughts. So if you got a little bit of that, send him his way, because he can definitely use it. Bryce, it was really good to hang out with you, man.
Yeah, good talking.
Great story. I'm glad you caught it on the tube, because tube's one of my favorite baits of all times.
Yeah, somebody asked me, they said, well, did you use your electronics? I didn't even have my electronics on.
Nice. Old school.
And I got all the bells. I got Garmin lives. I've got all that stuff. I just turned both of them off.
That's all.
Does that distract? Will that distract you at times if you've got all that?
Yeah, you can squirrel out on that live scope pretty quick. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're wandering off out into the cove chasing some silly fish. You know, yeah, you can squirrel out on them real quick. Yeah. Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I mean, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. But I have not mastered throwing at them suckers yet. I haven't figured that out. I could see them, but I can't catch them yet. So I need to figure that out. But no, I didn't have any electronics on. Nothing.
I love it.
The only thing that was on was my live wells. So
yeah. Well, it just shows that you don't need all that stuff to catch fish. You know, I mean, there are times when it does help, but when you got them up there shallow, and it's nice to just put a flipping stick in your hand, just cover water and catch those fish.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Good stuff. Good luck at Table Rock, man.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. And it was good to hear your story, and good luck with the new Phoenix boat. Maybe you'll see me in a Phoenix boat coming up here soon. I'm kind of not 100% sure, but your story and your buddy's story about having the Phoenix and that exact boat, I mean, that definitely gives me confidence in you know, that's a good hole, and I'd be perfectly happy with it.
It's been I've been real happy with it. I've owned all of them. You know, I've owned the Tritons and Nitros and all of them, and I had some old Champs, and this is the only thing I can relate it to is some of the old Champs and how they rode. Of course, there's been a lot of advancements in bass boats since I own Champions, but still, they're just great ride. I know you won't regret it. You really won't if you take that certificate. But yeah, either way, you're a winner, man. That's cool.
That's right.
Right. Up on that early. That's cool. That's tough to do out of the back of the boat. So awesome.
Yeah, it's fortunate. All right, man. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Great conversation. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bryce.
All righty. See ya.
All right, brother. Want to wrap this up?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think it went good from the pad. You know,
I like this.
It's weird you not being right here.
I get that. Like I told you earlier, like I think we'll continue that, but when there's crap going on at the house, like this is, and let's be honest, like I'm 25 minutes from you.
That's a long drive. I used to do that all the time when I drove up to Greg's house in Prairieville, you know, and it's sometimes it's nice to just get out and drive and get away from everything. But there's other times when you got a bunch of stuff, and it's kind of like working out, you know, if you got to drive to the gym versus just go in your workout room, it's completely different. You know?
There's almost like I almost have two trains of thoughts to that, not to get like on a really weird tangent, but like it always seemed like when I had to drive to the gym, I felt more compelled to go, and it also was paying a membership too, right?
Yeah, you
were out the money. It's kind of like having a boat payment. If you have a boat payment and you're paying on that rig, you want to use that rig. But when you don't go fishing for a month or two, it's okay for it to just sit in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's paid for. So
yeah. You two need to fish the bass. I don't know if a boat winning counts as prize winnings though. Oh yeah, I don't know. Since I won that Phoenix, I don't know. I guess it's likely. It's possible.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I think you have to wait a whole year or something.
I hate to say it, but I've never had any desire to fish the bass.
I've done it a couple times. It's fun. You know, it's fun. It's just kind of like, I mean, we had a 5-something pounder come into the boat. Mike flipped his jig up there around the ladder, and it came off like a foot from the net. I mean, he was skiing it in, and it just did some weird thing and came off. But that would have been a top 5, you know, in that pay period, I do believe. Other than that, that's the only chance we ever had of, you know, weighing in a fish.
Yeah. I got a buddy that he fishes I don't know if he fishes the fall one, but he fishes the spring one every year, and he always tries to get me going. But spring, it's that's hard for me to get away. So with ball.
Somebody's going to Table Rock. Oh wait, no, just tackle. He's going to that.
He's going to that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Make sure you throw in a chatterbait and a punt and doing some kind of punching.
Yeah, we were talking. You texted us while we were testing all this out earlier, Chris. So
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Stephanie. I didn't know you were an accountant or you did taxes. I did not know that. Come up with some divisive, sneaky plan that I can get around all these taxes, Stephanie, and I'll send you a Chad. Chatterbait pack. Got it. What's going on with Phil? Is he getting rowdy? Next week. Okay, let's see. We got, I'll just kind of give you some guests that we got coming up. We got Randy Howe booked for sometime in early November. He was going to be on tonight, but didn't work out exactly. And he is fishing a team tournament, I guess the Major League Fishing team tournament coming up sometime. So he's possibly going to be jumping on here during that team tournament if it works out. If not, then it's going to be, I think, the second week in November. So Randy Howe's a good dude. You know, it's pretty cool. I get a lot of these contacts and stuff doing this channel, and some of them, you know, they're really hard to get some kind of reply from. You just kind of hound them a little bit. I don't go too far. If they don't want to do it, that's fine. But Randy, man, he's super good dude. I mean, we've had a lot of text conversations. I guess you call it conversations, but they're via text. But you text him and he gets back with you right away, and he replies, and you know, he actually elaborates on it and stuff. And so he's just seems like a really good dude. I'm looking forward to talking with him. And we've got we're gonna have Ed Getty's on here sometime. James Watson is he told me to give him a call back in the fall. Mark Daniels Jr., same thing. A lot of these guys are kind of, their tournaments are winding down. So this
is when we get our you and my like dream guests, right? Like this is
there's that season in between. It's the downtime, so to speak, which they really don't have any downtime, but
it's our show season where they're not fishing tournaments, or not on the road as much.
Right. So yeah, we got plenty of options, plenty of opportunities. But I tell you what, some of my favorite streams, and I think people on here feel the same way, are just having guests that nobody knows. Like just tonight, you know, talking to Austin, talking to Bryce, just two normal people that are out there fishing just like all of us. I think it's cool to hear their stories and how they fish and how they strategize things. It's pretty cool. Jordan Lee, yeah, I'd like to have Jordan Lee. I don't know. You never know.
Bill, you can see what's sitting on my desk. You tell me if I'm getting ready to go deer hunting.
Oh yeah, he's definitely. His boat ain't gonna get wet for a couple months, I do believe.
Yeah, the boat's gonna be pretty dry for a little bit, unless I mow hunt at the lake.
So anyway, I got to call Dion. Dion's one of those guys you actually have to call.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's just how he rolls. So I got to call him and remind him. And we got to set up a trip like the Ozarks. So that's it, man. I'm wore out. I'm tired. Thanks everybody for hanging out. JB, it was good talking with you. I like the new setup, man. It's all good. However we do it, it's going to be fun.
We got options.
We got options. You got to have options in life. You got to have a starting spot, and you got to have options. What is this about?
Sausage time. Doug and his deer sausage.
Ooh, that's right. That's right.
I hate to say it, but I don't call in that area anymore. Like they took all of Doug's neck of the woods away from me. So I don't get to go up there anymore. So
Rob Jr. sausage. Doug, I got the Big O video done. I'm gonna drop it tomorrow. It's ready to go. And then I got one more video. I've got several more videos here locally, but I think I got one more video that I'm gonna work up, and then I'm gonna get started on all the regional stuff. It'll be 5 regional videos. So I'm gonna try to like get them going and get them 2 days apart and just blow it all out. So
do I have to, like, now that you're the big champ, like, do I have to schedule a visit now, or like a fishing trip, or is it just on my honor and we can just go?
No, your grandfathered in.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal.
I did sign 2 hats down there.
Did you?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Signed 2 hats.
Were those your first 2 autographs?
I think I have signed just a random thing or 2 at some of the sports shows in Collinsville. I think.
I got you.
Yeah, when I went with Doug the last couple of years, I think there was a couple people that, which is super cool, man. It's pretty cool. But I think it's funny. I think Jake Lawrence's son actually asked for my autograph, and I signed Jake Lawrence's hat,
Awesome.
which is hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's like that makes me feel good, you know.
Yeah, it won't be too long before
like
people are
3
asking
times
for
as-
Jake Lawrence's autograph on the regular.
Yeah, somebody that's like 5 times the fisherman as me, his son's asking for my autograph, so that's cool. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. That's it. Thanks everybody. We will do this again next week, and as always, appreciate you guys hanging out, and then till next time.